Amores os franceses, menina, ai Lisboa.
Welcome to the beautiful River Douro in Portugal. Andrea and I are aboard the Viking river cruise ship, the Viking Hemming. We're here for about 9 days to enjoy the spectacular sights of Portugal and Spain. You are now listening to Portuguese fado music, their native developed music style. The Pestana Lisbon Hotel is an amazing former residence of the governor of Lisbon about 300 years ago. It was converted to a hotel years ago and has absolutely gorgeous grounds. The rooms are really neat, and you can hear the ghost wandering around at night.
Tenha modos mais decentes, menina caprichosa e má. Lisboa, não sejas francesa, com toda a certeza não vais ser feliz.
Oh, get on the safety overlay.
Safety is a relative thing.
That whole one's surprising.
On the Tagus River, we have the Belém Tower, which used to be part of the fortifications of the city of Lisbon, built in the early 1500s. Getting up those narrow, steep stairways is a bit difficult, but well worth it once you get to the top. Notice that a certain redhead from Tampa, Florida is not in the crowd scene. As she likes to say, and I quote, "Ain't doing no more effing stairs." This statue is called a windrose and is to honor Henry the Navigator, given to Lisbon in 1960 by South Africa. So bright and early the next morning, they pack us in the buses. We say goodbye to the Pestana Hotel and head off to Porto. Along the way, we say hi to the goddesses at the gas station rest stop. We have a nice lunch at the Fado restaurant and listen to some real Fado music. And we visit the University of Coimbra. It's only about 400 years old, stuck out in the middle of nowhere, and people come from all over the world to go to this wonderful university. And then we arrive in the city of Porto on the bank of the River Douro on the western side of Portugal, leading out to the Atlantic Ocean.
Okay, so here we are about to arrive. So the ship is on the left-hand side, right behind all these restaurants, these beautiful restaurants by the river. So all these old warehouses on the right-hand side are the wine cellars that produce, age and bottle the port wine.
So they kick us off the buses. We're down at the dock, and we're standing on the south bank of the River Douro. So we're walking away, and then there she is, the Viking Hemming, our home for the next 9 days, waiting for us on the dock. There's all kinds of crazy boats on this river, going back and forth to tourists, and that's about it. They don't let any commercial vessels on this river.
Stateroom 221 on the Viking River cruise.
Don't you think you should have done that before we trashed it?
Details, details, details. The room looks fine, honey pie. So while everybody else is getting settled and taking naps, we go outside and say, hey, what are those tram cars doing up there? Where are they going? Time to go exploring. And we did. So we pay the nice Portuguese lady a couple euros. We jump on the tram and we start gaining altitude. The tram's going to drop us off at the top of the hill by that big old bridge up there, and we're going to walk to the other side and look for a famous landmark.
Are you getting the ships down there? Those are the ships that she said was bringing the port in.
Oh, there's the bottles. You're right. I did not notice that.
So we're almost at the top. Time to get off and walk across that bridge. Only problem is there's a damn train up there. We almost got run over. Notice there's no fences. Everybody for themselves on that bridge and the big old train. So the idea is to go find the third most famous bookstore in the world, the Lelo and Ermio bookstore, just over the bridge. But of course, we got lost.
It's a shame my lift doesn't work over here.
Shame what?
My lift doesn't work over here.
But we did find a nice taxi cab guy, and he took us right to the bookstore. Actually, it is a pretty amazing place. The bookstore was founded in pretty much this location in 1869 and went through some renovations, but has been pretty much the same for the last 100 years. Architecture is pretty amazing. So we get a cab, make it back to the boat, have a nice dinner, and take a stroll outside in the nighttime.
Well, what was that, Andrea? Look at. What was that up there?
Well, that's the cathedral. More old shit.
More old historic shit.
We can go on the tour tomorrow. I'm sure they'll go there.
No.
Or if we get up and we just want to walk it tomorrow. We
Well, that's what I'm thinking. We get up and we just kind of mosey around again.
Yeah.
Even if we do the damn cable car and go over again or whatever.
Yeah. Well, now we know how to walk the bridge.
Yeah.
Well, the next morning we wanted to go ashore, but do you notice something in this shot?
Honey Pie, we have a slight issue.
Oh, shit.
We are no longer docked. We're going to be hanging out on the boat this afternoon.
Oh.
Our plans to go ashore have been dashed.
That just happened because
So this is pretty weird. So why did the captain move us from the dock?
I have no idea. But this guy's definitely going where we were.
So pretty soon the answer becomes pretty clear. The Viking Osfrid took our place on the dock, and then we tied up to the Osprey, threw over a gangplank, and walked through their lobby to get out. Hey, their boat's nicer than ours. Then it's off to the big old bus to see a vineyard. Not as easy as it sounds.
Let's see the final curve here. A car? Okay, we can do it with a car. The driver was very surprised to see us coming down.
Coqueiro, tira coco, jipe, jipe, nheco, nheco, no coqueiro olirá. Oi, trapa no coqueiro, tira coco, jipe, jipe, nheco, nheco, no coqueiro olirá. Papai de Maria, Maria foi.
So there's iron railings in the form of twigs.
Oh, there you are.
Ooh, they are not happy with us.
Maria é moça nova, solteira não tem juízo. Maria é moça nova, solteira não tem juízo. Os passeios de Maria só podem dar prejuízo. Os passeios de Maria só podem dar prejuízo. Oi, trapa no coqueiro, tira coco, jipe, jipe, nheco, nheco, no coqueiro olirá. Oi, trapa no coqueiro, tira coco, jipe, jipe, nheco, nheco, no coqueiro olirá. Oi, trapa no coqueiro, tira coco, jipe, jipe, nheco, nheco, no coqueiro olirá. Oi, trapa no coqueiro, tira coco, jipe, jipe, nheco, nheco, no coqueiro olirá. No coqueiro olirá. No coqueiro olirá. No coqueiro olirá. No coqueiro olirá.
So bright and early the next morning, we start our voyage up the River Douro by casting off from the Osprey, and the captain using his neat little side controls there. So our captain locks down those neat little side controls and heads over to the bridge, which is a lot warmer and nicer than standing up on this freezing deck.
7:25 a.m. leaving Porto.
Daquela gente condenada à folia, e o fado ameno, canção das mais portuguesas, não era o veneno para lhes matar as tristezas. E a Maria, mãe do fado de outras eras, que foi ninho de severas, bairro turbulento, perdeu agora todo o aspecto de Galdéria. Está mais limpa, está mais séria, mais fadista sem adeus, tipóias. canecas e guiseiras. Adeus.
So we're watching the gorgeous scenery on the side of the river as we're cruising away. People are comfortable, sipping on their coffee in the morning, and all of a sudden we notice something coming up in the distance. We didn't realize it when we planned the trip, but we learned that the River Douro is actually a series of locks that were built to connect 5 different lakes across the middle of Portugal. We're heading east towards Spain, so the locks are going to take us up. It's pretty tight squeeze in these locks. Not only that, but those bridges you're going to see are kind of low. They actually got to take the canopies down, and sometimes they made us leave the top because the damn bridges were too low. So this lock is 100 feet high. See those folks up there on the bridge? Just remember how far up that looks from this angle. So they tie us off to these cleats. They go up and down with the lock. They lower the big ass gate so it locks us into the lock so they can pump water into it to raise us up. And up we go. Pretty freaky feeling to be in this thing and watch it go up, up, up.
All this developed by a bankrupt country. Yeah, exactly. Saying thank you, we're glad we joined you.
So remember those people on the bridge we saw a few minutes ago that were way up there? Getting a little closer.
We're going faster the higher we get up too.
And now you can see why they lowered the canopy. I gotta duck my head to get under this bridge. They actually custom build these ships to be able to fit in these locks. Barely narrow enough to get in and just high enough to get under the locks in some low bridges you're going to see down the line. So we head out of the lock 100 feet higher and start to cruise down the countryside again. We're off to our first port of the day. So we meander down the river, heading for the dock in Betititos, where the captain docks the Viking heading very nicely, thank you very much, and we're off on another tour. This time we're headed off to the Mateus winery. You know them. They do that Mateus rosé with the real nice building on the front, the real cheap stuff. So the buses drop us off at the entrance, we head in the front, and there it is. That house, we've been seeing on that wine label for years. Absolutely gorgeous grounds. The gardens have got very artistic decorations in them. All kinds of flowers and statues. Really classy European stuff. And of course you gotta have a naked lady in the pond, just to set it off to be artistic.
tremeu a tentação do céu e desencanto, eis o que o céu me deu. Serei bem eu sob este véu de pranto, sem saber que se...
So after exploring the grounds, we got a nice tour of the inside of the mansion. They wouldn't let us take any pictures or videos, though. It's interesting to know that the people that own the mansion and the winery still live in the house. They're like the 5th generation. They live in a good section of it and open up the rest to tourists. So the next day, we're back on the river, heading towards Regoa, and a couple of interesting sights along the way.
Triste amor, o amor de alguém, quando outro amor se tem abandonada e não me abandonei por mim.
Over there on the hillside is some advertising for the Sandman, another major winery in Portugal. This very distinctive masked caped symbol, kind of like Zorro, is all over the country. We're going to see that winery later. But first, it's time to go into another lock.
Just bounce it. Oh, that's how we dock our boat. We just kind of bounce it along. Who wants to go into the creepy dark tunnel first?
We've been ordered to evacuate the top deck, otherwise we're going to get our heads crushed. So we are leaving the top deck, per the captain's orders.
Right here. Oh, that's the seal you were talking about. Yeah.
So the seal that we just saw was carved there in 1757 by the Marquis de Pombal. It's called the Victoria Stone, a national monument. So you may have noticed that we're still on the lower deck of the boat. And there's a good reason for that. Look at that bridge coming up. Kinda low, isn't it?
That's good footage, eh? Yeah, that is. Yeah, that's scary. That's really
I can see why they made us get up on top. Is this the lowest one?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't get much lower.
Don't have much room to spare. You could do some limbo up there.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Come over.
Yeah, he was actually stopped, so I guess.
Ah, okay. It's nice of him.
Yeah.
That would have been.
It would have been noisy and
It would have been a bit stressful.
that would have been good footage. Yeah.
And a little bit later in the day, we enter into the lovely little town of Regoa. Then we're going to jump on another bus and see the Sandman Winery and Estate.
Just one information, this Quinta do Seixo farm belongs to Sandman, and as you know, Sandman is managed by Sograp, the same company that produces Mateus Rosé wine.
Oh, que linda esta roda de botões de rosa.
Oh, there you go.
Additional expression to that say, para lá do marão mandam os que lá estão. If I translate, it's like, beyond this mountain, the ones who are there are the ones who rule. So to that means, if you live here, you are not really expecting the king or anyone else to come and rule you or defend you. Okay?
Port of Pinhal. Second day on the river.
Yes, please, thank you. Yes, thank you. That's fine. Remove your Randy,
Yo,
put the camera down.
I can't.
They're leaving you.
No, they're not. We're not docked yet. Besides, I'm helping.
You're in the way.
No, I'm not.
Is he okay? Going out this way? Yes.
Now at night. Nobody on the upper deck. It's cold. They're a bunch of wimps.
So the next morning we're back in the bus. We're heading up to the mountains, this time to see the Castello Rodrigo. This is a 16th century castle that still has people living in it to this day.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the castle is on the left and you can leave the bus and take a picture, then we'll go to the top of the castle. Thank you.
Inside the Castello Rodrigo, it's pretty amazing. It's very, very old, made of brick stone masonry, and there's still people living there and working there.
Fun that would be, right? Portuguese fortune. Probably all the same. You will receive money soon.
Then immediately give it to your husband.
Big old trucks going up alleyways made for horses and carts. So this is the view from one of the little cafes in the Castelo Rodrigo. Adrian and I decided to have a little drink before we headed back. Place is old, isn't it? So as we head out, of course, the last thing that we see is the town cemetery, still going strong.
Mountains are the border of Spain.
See that bird's nest on the top of that tower? That's a stork. Real live storks in Portugal.
Stork nest.
So we're heading back in the mountains to the boat, but the boat has moved while we're doing the tour. It is now in another port called the Barca de Alva. And of course, along the way, somebody has to take a nap. The Barca de Alva is right on the Portugal-Spain border. It used to have a functioning train station that's been closed for a few years, but the boat's still docked there.
Barca de Alva.
There's not a whole lot to this sleepy little town, especially now that the train station is closed. Few people live there, and there's a couple of bars and restaurants. I made it to the two that were still open. Like most of these little towns that we've seen and got to see some more of, you've got people living in these towns amongst the ruins. Stuff just been abandoned and just let go. Even the backyard of somebody that's got a little garden. Looks like it's been there for hundreds of years. So here's the railroad tracks. This part's heading west into Portugal. The old tracks on top of the mountain. There's the Viking Hemming. And then we see the tracks coming out of the mountain from Spain. Closed. And there you have it. There's Spain, España. Right there on the mountainside. And we come along there, and now we're in Portugal. And here's the River de Oro, shot from the top of the bridge, heading off there into Spain. Typical, gorgeous little countryside. So the next morning, we're back on the bus, heading into Spain to see the University of Salamanca, with a redhead that's awake for a change. We get to see a local market with some of the ugliest fish I've ever seen in my life. And we enter the University of Salamanca in Salamanca, Spain. It's been around for 800 years. And here's the monument celebrating their 800th anniversary in 2013. Like everywhere else in Europe, you've got these vastly ornate cathedrals with amazingly intricate stonework. There's 2 of them in the university. So like most college towns, the university is built in and around and through the city, just like most colleges around the world. We happen to hit it on a day where there's a festival. The kids have a day off and they all dress up in silly costumes and basically party all day long. Sounds pretty typical for a college.
Some kind of rabbit. Todos son locos para allá.
¿Qué hace?
Mira. Mujer para allá es un hombre.
¿De verdad?
Sí,
Here we've got a courtyard, kind of like a town square, and those medallions are figures of kings and popes and religious figures from hundreds of years ago.
Another stork nest in Salamanca.
So let's compare modern-day Salamanca with a good old McDonald's in the town square and this stone where the students used to sharpen their swords when they go to do their dueling.
It's from the Roman period, so it's probably for the 1st century before Christ.
Well done.
I don't even know where I am and what I'm doing.
All right, YouTube, 15 minutes, okay?
And the next morning, bright and early, we're back on the river. Got a great shot of the train going down the tracks and through the mountain.
It disappeared. Oh, there it goes. In the lock from the Goodell stateroom.
And then through another lock with a little bit different perspective from the Goodell stateroom. It's a little freaky to be sitting in your stateroom and watching the boat go up a wall of a lock. Well, we've gotten through the lock and we're back in Pinhal because we're heading back to Porto. Get on the bus again and drive over the lock. We're heading to the town of Favros, which is famous for its winery and its bakery. It's an old-fashioned bakery, as you're about to see.
So we can just pick a vat and jump in? We're okay?
I don't think so. We have three different types: French, Portuguese, and American. And I'm going to give you some examples. This cask in here is French oak, and this side, you can see there in the level, we have a Muscatel wine from the harvest of 2007. We call it a reserve. In the case of the Muscatel, when it is young, it is very light in color, and as it ages, it will get darker. 100 years old.
We mix these four ingredients in this machine to create a dough. And this dough remains in the machine 1 hour to rise. Then Donna Rosali picks this dough and puts it on this table to rise for more 20 minutes. After that time, Donna Rosali starts cutting pieces, like she's doing now. To give the mold, she needs 12 movements.
After the bakery, it's a walk around town to see the local church and see how the people live here. And of course, we have our intrepid tour guide to show us all the nooks and crannies. Not quite sure what this guy and this little old lady have got in common, but I guess it's a nice day to just wander around the courtyard. Here is the Favros Bread and Wine Museum, which is a pretty cool place. About a 300-year-old building that they've renovated, and complete with all the historical stuff. And in the backyard there is a working vineyard that's absolutely gorgeous. Then we are off to our last winery tour of the Viking Hemming cruise. We're heading into the Acevedo Winery Co-op. 3rd generation winery, and the owner is quite a character, as you'll soon see.
And here we have some authentic Australian tourists. Fitting in with the countryside.
I changed the floor. The regular floors in warehouses are 11, and I put granite to become more easy floor. But we conserve original because we continue spreading. In the first 30,000 liters bag, the muscatel from my father were 50 years old. In the second and third, we keep the muscatel from my grandfather with 70 years old. Ladies and gentlemen, let's start our typical lunch. And to start our lunch, we will serving you two types of table wines. The white table wine that we will serve is very specific from our plateau because it's vinified with 70% of muscatel grapes. So it will be very floral in nose, very fruity in mouth, and it will have a quick end.
So the next day we're back on the river, but now we're heading west. And we're starting to go back down the river, still seeing the train and the other gorgeous sights.
When can we drive?
You have to go to school first.
Ah, okay.
You can, when we're docked.
Then you bring me the certificate.
Okay, then you'll let me be your apprentice? Okay.
What's on the bottom? Is it silt? Is it mud, stone?
Well, depending on the place. We have everything. We have mud, centimeters. So what happened in the next 800 can vary a lot in this part.
And there's a big catchment area.
So now we're at the top of the lock, and we're going to head down to the next level, which is a little bit different perspective from what we had before. And now the boats down at the bottom have to wait for us to get out of the lock before they can get in.
It seems to go down faster than, so I guess it's easier than coming up. Got a rainbow over there. See it? Yeah, right there, there's a rainbow.
So here's that red boat we saw on top of the lock, and now we're down on the same level he is. He's going to pass us by.
Yeah. He's increasing his landing speed.
He is coming where you two are. Yeah, he's good. So we get a little bit of a bump.
Yeah, that's a tour bus. Yeah, that's not one like us.
And a little later in the day, we're back in Porto, back where we started. Only this time, we're going to head out underneath that bridge out there and take a look at the Atlantic Ocean. So there's the ocean out there at the mouth of the Douro River. We went out, turned around, went back to the dock. So we spent our last night in Portugal at Porto at the dock, had a great dinner, chatted with a few new friends, and saw Porto at night again.
ngày xưa